Somewhere on a cruise ship right now, a perfectly sensible woman in her 60s is standing at the buffet with a plate of shrimp, completely unaware that $300 of her own money is frozen in her bank account. She hasn't spent it. She can't get it back this week. And she handed it over voluntarily, at check-in, in about 11 seconds, while smiling. That's number 25. They get worse. There's a rule about your phone that has left people sprinting down a pier in sandals. There's a fire regulation that can put a mobility scooter into storage for the entire holiday. There's a group of passengers who got left on an African island with no money, no luggage, and one man's heart medication sailing away in a cabin he couldn't reach. And at number 1, there's the thing about Medicare that nobody mentions at the travel agent because roughly 6 hours from shore it quietly stops working. 25 of these, every one of them true. Let's go and get her money back. Number 25. The card you hand over at check-in decides how much money you have all week. Back to our friend with the shrimp. At check-in, somebody asks for a card for your onboard account, and you hand over whatever's on top in your wallet. That's the whole decision. 11 seconds. No explanation. The ship immediately places a hold on it. Royal Caribbean starts at around $100, and Norwegian goes up to $300, with more holds stacking on as you spend, because the card isn't actually charged until the end of the cruise. They're not charging you. They're reserving you, like a table. On a credit card, invisible. On a debit card, that's your actual money, sitting in a little jail. And here's the part nobody warns you about. When the cruise ends and you settle up, the holds don't just evaporate. Royal Caribbean says most clear by the end of the sailing. Some release 5 to 7 business days later, and others can take up to 45 days. And they're very clear that your bank controls that, not them. So you can be standing in a pharmacy in Cozumel with a fully paid account, a spotless bill, and a card that says no. Which is a fascinating thing to discover about yourself in a foreign country. Credit card for the ship. Debit card stays home, on dry land, where money behaves normally. Number 24. Your phone will confidently watch the ship leave without you. Many ships keep their own time, sail into a port that's an hour behind, and plenty of ships simply refuse to acknowledge it. All aboard is 4:30 ship time. Ship time is the only time that exists. The ship does not care what the island thinks. Your phone, meanwhile, finds a local tower, quietly updates itself, and now displays a completely different hour with enormous confidence. It's not broken. It's just not on your side. This is why almost every video of a person sprinting down a pier features somebody who checked the time. They checked. They were thorough. They were also an hour wrong, and now 4,000 people are filming them from deck 12 while they do a run they have not attempted since 1994. Look at the clock at the gangway on your way off, not the one in your pocket. And if your husband says we've got heaps of time while holding a phone, that is the precise moment to start worrying. Number 23. The photo you never agreed to costs more than dinner. Our friend with the shrimp has been on board 4 minutes. She hasn't found her cabin. She doesn't know where anything is. And a man in a waistcoat has already photographed her against a backdrop of a beach she is not currently on, with her handbag over one shoulder and the expression of someone who was thinking about a sandwich. 3 days later, there she is on a screen outside the dining room. Framed. Lit. $25 to $40. You're under no obligation whatsoever. They print on spec. They bin the ones nobody buys. And absolutely nothing happens to you if you walk past. Say no thank you before they position you, because once you're positioned, you're basically married to it. Number 22. Guarantee cabin means they choose, and they are not sentimental about it. A guarantee fare is the cheapest way to book. You pick a category, they pick the room. The saving is real. But somebody has to get the cabin directly underneath where the crew stack the pool loungers at 5:45 in the morning. That somebody was chosen by a computer, and the computer has never met you, and the computer does not know that you're already up twice a night as it is. $60 or $80 usually buys you the right to choose your own room. Cheapest alarm clock removal in travel, and if you've already been assigned one, look the number up on the deck plan and find out what's directly above you. If the answer is the buffet, ring them. Number 21. The thing in your suitcase they will take off you. Power strips with surge protection are banned on every major cruise line. Genuine fire risk on a ship's electrical system, so security pulls them at the scanner, and you spend the week charging one item at a time like it's 1994 again. Now, the reason this matters more than it sounds. A lot of you travel with a sleep apnea machine, a CPAP. That needs power near the bed, in a cabin apparently designed by someone who assumed you own two devices and one of them is a lamp. Here's what almost nobody knows. You can request an extension cord from the cruise line in advance, and most lines will deliver distilled water to your cabin for free if you ask before you sail. Both free. Both completely invisible unless you ask. Do it at booking. Not at the guest services desk on embarkation day when 4,000 other people also want something and the queue has developed its own weather system. Number 20. The people who paid extra to board first are still standing in the sun. Cruise lines sell priority boarding for $25 to $50 a person. Be first on the ship. It sounds like the obvious upgrade. Here's what actually happens. Everybody who bought priority arrives at the same time because they all want the thing they paid for. So you get a queue of people who paid extra, standing next to a queue of people who didn't, moving at almost exactly the same speed, in the sun, at 11 in the morning. And even if you win that race, you've won a strange prize. Cabins usually aren't ready until early afternoon. So you're on board with your carry-on bag, your cabin door is locked, and there is nowhere to sit because 4,000 other people are also on board with their carry-on bags, doing laps of Deck 9 and pretending this is relaxing. The buffet is at its absolute worst, packed, picked over, and staffed by people who have been doing this since 6. Now come back 90 minutes later. Security is empty. You walk straight through. The buffet's been restocked. Your cabin is ready or nearly. And your luggage has had time to actually arrive outside your door instead of turning up at 8 o'clock at night while you're at dinner in the shirt you flew in. Same ship, same holiday, same first day. One version of you spent an hour standing up and paid $50 for the privilege. Check your boarding window, then aim for the middle of it rather than the front. The ship isn't going anywhere without you, and for once in this video, that's a good thing. Number 19. Your mobility scooter cannot sleep in the hallway. This one blindsides people and almost nobody warns them. Under fire regulations, mobility scooters and walkers cannot be left in the corridor overnight. Corridors are escape routes. Nothing lives in a corridor. Which means your scooter has to fit inside your cabin, and a standard cabin was not designed with a scooter in mind. It was barely designed with a suitcase in mind. So people arrive having hired a scooter specially and are told it's going to storage, below deck, for the week. The one thing that made the holiday possible, parked next to the spare deck chairs. Measure your scooter. Check it against the actual cabin dimensions before you book. If it doesn't fit, that tells you exactly which cabin you need, which is the next one, and it has a deadline attached. And listen out for number 3, because it's a single sheet of paper, and it's the difference between an inconvenient day and the worst week of your life. Number 18. Accessible cabins aren't held for you. They're first come, first served. There's a myth that cruise lines keep accessible cabins in reserve for people who need them. They don't. They sell like any other room, and there are very few. A ship carrying 4,000 people might have 20 or 30. Not a conspiracy. Just a tiny supply meeting enormous demand from a generation that cruises more than anyone. Then there's the deadline nobody mentions. Special needs and accessibility forms usually close somewhere around 30 to 60 days before you sail, and the exact window varies by line, so check yours. Inside that form is a list of things that are completely free if you ask in time and completely impossible if you don't. Bed shakers for people with hearing loss. Visual door alerts. Assistive listening devices for the theater. Shower chairs, raised toilet seats. All of it free. All of it sitting in a storeroom. Waiting on a form most people never open because it arrives as an attachment in an email titled Your Cruise Documents, which everybody deletes. Book the accessible cabin early, get the request in writing, and fill in that form the week you book. Number 17. The ports care what's in your pill case. 2 rules that seem fussy right up until the moment they aren't. Original labeled bottles, not the weekly organizer, not a sandwich bag with a rubber band, and bring at least 2 extra weeks' worth because ships get diverted, hurricanes exist, and the ship's shop does not stock your blood pressure medication. It stocks a watch. The part people don't expect is that some countries have strong opinions about ordinary medication. The United Arab Emirates and Singapore are famously strict. Several Caribbean nations have restrictions too. Something completely unremarkable at your local chemist can be a serious problem at a foreign border, and it varies enormously by country, so check the actual ports on your actual itinerary rather than assuming it'll be fine. And I'll tell you at number 7 exactly what happens when your medication is on the ship and you are not. It's a real case. It made international news, and it's worse than you're imagining. Number 16. Do the drink package maths out loud. It's embarrassing. Most drink packages need somewhere between 5 and 7 drinks a day to break even. Every day, including the day you feel a bit off, and the day you're in bed by 8:30 because the show was 90 minutes of a man doing impressions. But the real cost isn't the money. It's what it does to a person's character. There is a specific expression on a face at 4 in the afternoon, forcing down a mojito nobody wants because they are absolutely not going to let a cruise line come out ahead. That's not a holiday. That's a hostage situation you've paid for. Count what you actually drink at home. Then be honest a second time, because the first answer is always wrong. Number 15. The free champagne at the art auction is the most expensive drink on the ship. Sea Day. You wander past. There's a man with a gavel, some easels, and a tray of free sparkling wine. What's the harm? The harm is a phrase called appraised value. You'll hear a big number, you'll pay less than that number, and your brain will file it under bargain and lock the drawer. But that appraised value doesn't come from an auction house or an open market, and it doesn't mean any human being anywhere will ever pay it. People carry these home genuinely believing they've bought an investment, then discover the resale market for mass-produced cruise ship art is roughly the size of a shoebox. Our friend with the shrimp had 2 glasses of the free champagne and now owns a dolphin. It's in the spare room. It faces the wall. Enjoy the bubbles. Enjoy the theater. Just don't come home owning a whale. Number 14. The spa will charge you a tip, then hand you a blank tip line. Spa treatments on most ships add an 18 to 20% service charge automatically. Then you're handed a slip with a blank tip line at the bottom and a lovely person standing 18 inches away, watching you decide what kind of human being you are. Most people tip again. That is the entire design. It's not a trap so much as a very small, very polite ambush. The other thing worth knowing is that a 60-minute massage is frequently 40 minutes of massage and 20 minutes of product recommendation. You will be told your muscles are dehydrated. Muscles don't really do that. You will then be offered a bottle of something to fix the thing that isn't happening. Read the receipt before you sign. If the gratuity is already on it, you have tipped. And no thank you, just the treatment, is a complete sentence in every language on earth. Quick pause. That's 14 down, and the last 11 are where the real money is. If this is useful, hit like. It genuinely pushes it to other cruisers before they sail, which is the whole point. And subscribe, because the top 10 are the ones I actually made this video for. Number 13. The iron in your suitcase is going straight in the bin drawer. Irons are banned, steamers usually too. It's the #1 fire risk on a passenger ship, and security will pull one out of your bag with the weary confidence of somebody who has done it 400 times today. So, people arrive with a week of cruise wear and no way to get the creases out and end up hanging everything in the bathroom and running the shower, which on a ship produces roughly the humidity of Singapore, and a shirt that is now merely damp instead of creased. 2 fixes. Most lines have public laundry rooms with irons in them, free or nearly free, and they are gloriously empty at 7 in the morning. And plenty of lines run a stuff-a-bag laundry special in the second half of the cruise. 1 price, 1 bag, cram it until the zip complains. It's one of the few genuinely good deals on board, and it's advertised on 1 line of the daily paper that everybody uses as a coaster. Number 12. The free seasickness cure is at the buffet. If the sea turns, the ship's medical center will happily help you. It will also charge you like a specialist clinic in Manhattan, and we'll get to what those bills actually look like at number 2. The free version is this. Crew have been doing it for decades. Green apples and plain crackers, and ginger in any form the ship has got. Ask at the buffet, and somebody will produce ginger tea like a magic trick. Position matters more than any of it. Midship, low deck, is the calmest part of the vessel. The higher and further forward you are, the more you experience the ocean as a personal opinion about you. That gorgeous forward-facing cabin on deck 11 is a lovely view and a terrible bed. And if you're prone to it, bring your remedy from home. The pharmacy at sea has a very particular pricing philosophy, and you are not in a strong negotiating position while holding a bin. Number 11. The cover charge is the beginning of the bill. Specialty restaurants advertise 1 number, and that number covers the meal and frequently stops there. Wine's extra. Premium cuts often carry a supplement. Gratuity commonly goes on top. So the $35 experience becomes $90. 1 specialty night is a genuine treat and worth doing. Book it online before you sail, where it's usually cheaper than on board. Then let the main dining room handle the rest, because you have already paid for it, and it is considerably better than people give it credit for. You're allowed to order 2 starters. Nobody stops you. Nobody has ever stopped anyone. Number 10. You are already tipping, then you tip again. Automatic gratuities run roughly $16 to $20 per person per day. For a couple on a 7-night cruise, that's a couple of $100, added quietly, appearing on your account like weather. Then, you order a cocktail at dinner, and another 18% goes on top of that specific drink. Now, I'm going to be straight with you, because most videos on this subject aren't. You can go to guest services and adjust or remove those automatic gratuities. They won't fight you. Yeah, that's real, and cruise lines don't advertise it. But that money goes to the crew, the people cleaning your cabin and carrying your plates on contracts most of us wouldn't survive a fortnight of. So know the lever exists. Know what it's attached to. Decide like an adult. What you should absolutely do is check your account every night on the app or the cabin television. Not because anyone's cheating you, but because mistakes happen. And a wrong charge is a 2-minute conversation on day 3 and a full-blown incident on day 7 at 11 at night with a queue behind you. Number 9. Your onboard credit has a bedtime. Onboard credit typically expires at 10 o'clock on the final night. Not midnight. Not at breakfast. 10. And there are 2 kinds, which nobody explains. Credit you paid for is generally refundable. Don't spend it and you get it back. Credit you were given as a booking perk is usually non-refundable, which means at 1 minute past 10 on the last night, it simply stops existing. Every single sailing, people go home having left credit behind because they were saving it. For what exactly? The last night? This is the last night. Our friend with the shrimp saved hers all week for something special and spent the final 90 minutes buying $400 of duty-free perfume with the focus of a woman defusing a bomb. Check which type you've got on day 1. If it's the perk kind, spend it. That's not greed. That's arithmetic. Number 8. You can look up your ship's health score before you board. Every ship calling at an American port gets inspected by the health authorities, and every score is published publicly online, searchable by ship name, free. Almost nobody looks, and the numbers have been climbing. By late 2025, health officials had investigated 20 cruise ship outbreaks, beating the previous year's record of 18. Part of the reason is a new strain of norovirus that became dominant, and in years when a new strain arrives, illness tends to rise. These aren't small events either. On one Queen Mary. 2 voyage over Christmas, more than 300 passengers fell ill. That's around 1 in 8 people on the ship. Now, the darker half. When norovirus takes hold, the response is to confine sick passengers to their cabins. Medically correct. Also the exact reason people don't report it, because nobody spends 2 years saving for a holiday and then volunteers for house arrest. Which means, at any moment there are people on that ship who feel terrible, have told nobody, and are currently operating the tongs. Soap and water, properly? Because the gel dispensers do very little against this particular bug. And here's the part nobody says out loud. The buffet is a shared surface with 4,000 co-owners, and the first 2 days are when it's cleanest. Draw your own conclusions about the sea day at the end. And stay with me for number 1, because if you're on Medicare, it changes what you should do before your next cruise. It's the reason this video is called what it's called. Number 7. The ship waits for its own tours. That's not the same as waiting for you. This is the section I'd tattoo on people if I could, because there's a real case that shows exactly how bad it gets. In March 2024, 8 passengers, 6 Americans, and 2 Australians were on a private tour on the island of Sao Tome, off West Africa, during a 21-day voyage from Cape Town to Barcelona. The tour ran late and they missed the 3 o'clock all aboard. They got the local Coast Guard to take them out to the ship, which was still at anchor, sailed right up to it, and were refused permission to board. Now here's the part that matters to you. Their prescription medicine, credit cards, and luggage were all still in their cabins. The group included a pregnant woman and a paraplegic passenger. One man went 5 days without his heart medication and became ill. One couple in the group had their bank cards on them and ended up spending thousands of dollars covering food, hotels, and onward travel for everybody else. The cruise line's position was that guests are responsible for returning at the published time, and that their passports had been left with the local port agent to collect. 7 countries, days of travel, because a tour ran long. And booking through the ship isn't a perfect shield either. In October 2025, an 80-year-old passenger named Suzanne Reese went on a ship-organized hike on Lizard Island, off the Queensland coast. She felt unwell partway up and was told to make her own way back down. The ship left. Her family says no passenger count was done. Her body was found the next day, about 50 meters off the trail. It's now under investigation, and her family has called for a coronial inquest. So, the honest advice, not the cheerful version. Cruise line excursions cost more and buy you a wait, and that's worth it when the port is remote or the tour goes far inland. If you book independently, build a 2-hour buffer, not 20 minutes. And whichever you choose, carry your day's medication, a card, and your identification on your body. Not in the cabin. The ship is not a bus. It doesn't do a head count at every stop. Sometimes it doesn't do one at all. Number 6. When a port gets canceled, money is owed to you. Ports get skipped constantly. Swell, wind, mechanical issues, a berth that vanished overnight. When it happens, the port fees and taxes for that stop come back to you, usually as onboard credit because the ship didn't use the port and can't keep the fee. Your excursion money is a different animal. Booked through the cruise line, it's normally refunded, but it isn't always instant and it isn't always automatic. Booked independently, that's between you and the operator, and many will refund a canceled call if you contact them. But you actually have to contact them. So, on the day a port gets skipped, while the entire ship is standing at the rail glaring at the horizon like it personally owes them something, go to guest services and ask 2 questions. Have the port fees been credited? Has my excursion been refunded? 10 minutes of mild social awkwardness for money that is already yours. And you'll be the only person on that ship who thought of it, which is its own small pleasure. Number 5. Book on board, then move it to a travel agent. Best legitimate move in cruising, and I'd guess 9 out of 10 passengers have never heard it. On the last couple of nights, everyone from your waiter to the cruise consultant encourages you to book your next sailing on board. Low deposit, real perks, better onboard credit than you'd get at home. That part is genuine. What they don't mention is that most lines let you transfer that booking to a travel agent afterwards, usually within 30 to 60 days. You keep the onboard perks. Then the agent stacks whatever they add on top, which for a cruise specialist is often more credit, a rebate, or an upgrade. Same ship, same cabin. 2 sets of benefits. 1 phone call. 1 real warning though. Book the cruise on board, but don't attach drink packages or dining packages to it while you're at sea. Those add-ons frequently have far less forgiving cancellation terms than the cruise itself. Book the cruise at sea. Buy the extras at home, in daylight, where you can compare and cancel. Number 4. Price drops are claimable, but only if you know your line. Commonly a 48-hour window right after booking, and Carnival's guarantee pays 110% of the difference inside it, and these swings are not small. One cruiser watched a sailing they'd paid around $11,500 for slide down to roughly $6,800, a $4,700 drop after they'd already paid in full. Somebody else booked that same cabin later for half. They're both getting the same buffet, so the tip isn't ring up and complain. It's this. The week you book, find out 2 things: your line's exact price protection rule and your final payment date. Then check the price once a week. 2 minutes, on your phone, with a cup of tea. People have clawed back thousands doing nothing more sophisticated than looking. Number 3. The birth certificate that works until the day it doesn't. On a closed-loop cruise, one that leaves an American port and returns to the same American port, you can sail on a birth certificate and photo identification instead of a passport. It's legal, it's normal, millions do it, and it works beautifully. Right up until something goes wrong. Because if you have a medical emergency in Cozumel, or a death in the family at home, and you need to get off that ship and fly back from a foreign country, you need a passport. And now, you're standing in an airport in another nation, holding a birth certificate on what is already the worst day of your year, trying to explain yourself to somebody whose job is not to be flexible. Remember the Sao Tome group? Their passports had been left with a local port agent for collection. They were the lucky ones. They had them. The paperwork problem always turns up on the day you have the least capacity to handle it. Get the passport. After 60, it isn't a travel document. It's an emergency exit. Number 2. Nobody reads the insurance line that matters. Two things, and the second one is the one that catches people. First, the numbers. A ship's medical center is a business. One passenger posted a bill of $9,750 after falling ill at sea, including a $219 admission fee that appeared twice, once for entering the medical center and once for being seen by the doctor inside it. And if you need to actually leave the ship, Alliance puts medical evacuation costs anywhere from $15,000 to over $200,000, depending on distance and equipment. That's not a scare figure. That's the brochure figure. Second, and this is the one almost nobody knows, on most travel insurance policies, the pre-existing condition waiver only applies if you buy the policy within roughly 14 to 21 days of your first deposit. Miss that window, and everything you are already being treated for is excluded from the policy you just bought. After 60, that is not a technicality. That is most of the reasons you would ever need to claim. So write this down. The day you pay your deposit is the day you buy the insurance, not the month before you sail, not when you remember. The same day. And when you compare policies, don't ask whether evacuation is included. Ask what the evacuation limit is in dollars. Included and adequate are two completely different words. Number one, Medicare stops working 6 hours from the coast. Here it is. The reason this video is called what it's called. Original Medicare Part B may pay for medically necessary services on a cruise ship only if the doctor is legally allowed to provide medical services on that ship, and the ship is in an American port, or no more than 6 hours away from one. Regardless of whether it's an emergency, past 6 hours, you're on your own. That is not fine print. That is most of your holiday. The Caribbean, Alaska, the Mexican Riviera, the Mediterranean, every transatlantic crossing ever made. The medical center takes your card up front, charges what it charges, and hands you paperwork to argue with when you get home. And it can be much colder than a bill. In March 2024, an 80-year-old woman named Julie Lenkoff suffered a stroke and possibly a heart attack aboard a ship and was medically disembarked to a local clinic on Sao Tome. Her family said the line never reached her emergency contacts. She was found on that island by the stranded passengers who put her in touch with her daughter in California, a move her daughter said saved her life. Now, some of you are covered and don't realize it. Medigap Plan D, Plan G, Plan M, and Plan N include foreign travel emergency cover, and Plan C and Plan F have it for people who held them before 2020. Those plans typically pay 80% of billed charges for necessary emergency care outside the country, up to a lifetime limit. Medicare Advantage varies enormously. Some include worldwide emergency cover. Some are strictly domestic. So, before your next cruise, one phone call. Ring your plan and ask exactly this. Does my plan cover emergency medical care outside the United States? What is the dollar limit? And does it cover care received on a ship? Because millions of people over 65 walk up that gangway every year assuming they're covered. And roughly 6 hours out, they stop being covered, and there is nobody on board whose job it is to mention it.